The polygamous sex, a man's right to the other woman. Fathers are powerless. Children don't loathe their parents, they are merely attached to them, they need them, and sometimes they even like them. When father and mother have the knack of clothing their instinctive and essentially self-gratifying nurturing of their brood in the image of self-sacrificial devotion, they may enjoy as a fringe benefit the child's guilt and gratitude, as well. But this is not love, nor should it be. If children returned the love of their parents in full measure, life would come to a standstill, because they would never want to leave home. Children by and large tend to leave their parents at the earliest possible opportunity, to go looking for their own love objects. Protégés. Many never return home, or do so only out of a sense of duty. Children can feel real love for their parents only as these gradually become old and helpless. When physical debility, intellectual inferiority, and resemblance characterize the parent, it becomes possible for the grown son to love his father as a genuine protégé. At this point, however, the father's love has come to an end. Between protector and protégé there is always only one who loves, always the protector. The protégé accepts whoever will be his provider. If another, better provider comes along, he will be accepted, without any great emotional investment. The most to be expected is a certain loyalty. For what is involved is only the protégé's instinct of self-preservation, and necessarily a social instinct. If this were fixated upon a specific individual, and that individual perished, so would the protégé. A man who marries a woman inferior to himself, i.e., adopts her, must expect that she cannot feel anything for him but liking and gratitude. A woman is better off than a child, after all. If necessary, she can take care of herself, like any man. That she nevertheless allows her husband to pay all the bills is a personal concession that can be retracted at any time. She is entitled, therefore, to high expectations. Everything done for her must be first-rate, otherwise she may engage another protector or else, depending upon circumstances, even decide to take care of herself. Compared with the real father, a wife's adopted father has no hope of becoming his pseudo-child's protégé. In his old age, either. The most he can hope for is the status of an inadequate or pseudo-protégé, i.e., if he is lucky, he may come to enjoy the woman's altruistic love, her charity. The woman even gets a reward. She inherits his property, his insurance, his pension rights, so that he can go on providing for her after his death, the death she is statistically prepared to survive for, on the average, 6 years, plus the number of years she is younger than he is. Turning to the man's role for a moment, one might suppose that a protector, armed with material power over his dependent, is in a position to blackmail her. But that is precisely what he can never do. If he were capable of it, he would never have undertaken the charge in the first place. Who really enjoys working for someone else's benefit? But the nurturing instinct is so powerful a drive that there is no evading its power. Not even women have as yet succeeded in modifying it. But for them it is so much less onerous to satisfy their brood-hatching instincts. Even if the woman is the partner who originally wanted the child, the man already had his child, in the person of his wife, it is always the man who will be responsible for its care and feeding. The nurturing instinct is polyvalent, i.e., a man can have more than one young charge under his wing. When the first real protégé for both is born, the wife merely advances to the position of eldest daughter. A woman who bears children therefore has a double advantage. She satisfies her own nurturing instinct and simultaneously strengthens the foundations of her own security. As the mother of authentic protégés, she must be provided for, even if she ceases to seem quite as helpless and appealing as her role ideally calls for. The power of the child over his parents, that of the biologically weaker over the stronger, is a law of nature. Without such power, they would starve, being unable to take care of themselves. That parents will dash into a burning house or hurl themselves into a raging flood to save their young is a matter of course. That men go to war for their women is also considered a matter of course. A man who must be a father to his wife is powerless, where she is concerned. The powerless lover. A man who wants to gain power over a woman must follow the example of women and condition his sex drive. If he succeeds in becoming as cold as she can no longer bait him with sex into the role of provider. At most she could offer herself as an equal sex partner, as dependent on him as he is on her. If men could abstain from sex at judicious intervals, they might even succeed in normalizing the female sex drive, even make women desire them more than the other way around. Not that a man could have absolute power over a woman even then. He could hardly hope to become her protégé, except in rare cases, but he would come considerably closer to equality. But it does seem as though men are inclined to capitulate without a struggle, faced with the vast glacial expanse of female frigidity. Women certainly can't be accused of keeping it a secret. They used to say men all want the same thing, implying that women not only didn't want but actually loathed it. Nowadays a new ploy has been added. Scientists report that women can have 50 orgasms a day compared to a man's average of 5 or so, and that women can reach climax at 90 without effort, while men begin to fail and to dread impotence at 60. These scientists are elevated to instant stardom in the women's polemical press. A human being with a normal libido might become panic-stricken at such news, as if someone were announcing the rationing of drinking water or air to breathe. But women see in all this only another triumph of the female principle. There is a movement afoot in the United States for sexual separatism. Women are encouraged to refuse sexual coitus altogether, on the grounds that it is denigrating to the female as such. Only women could think of such a notion. It is not by chance that Lysistrata was a female. A man would have given it up after the first try. Lysistrata was only intensifying, for a temporary purpose, a form of blackmail commonly used by women every day of the week since time immemorial. To give up sex, especially in a good cause, is no sacrifice at all, for women. Given such overwhelming evidence of being outclassed in the frigidity stakes, a man with any common sense must realize that he will never succeed in mastering his libido no matter how hard he tries, as the average woman can without trying. Total freedom being out of his reach, he surrenders to total enslavement without a struggle. Already powerless as a father, he also accepts his powerlessness as a lover. Having no means of control over his wife, he goes to the other extreme, sets her on a pedestal and worships the idol without restraint. At best he may succeed, as we shall see later on, in satisfying his two basic social instincts separately, with two different women, thus becoming the pawn of two dependents instead of one, expanding the rule of women, of the female, over his life, instead of restricting it. To save face a bit, men have labeled the fact that they are always pursuing women while women so rarely pursue them in a way they hope is flattering to them, according to their scale of values, as male aggressiveness. Male aggressiveness consists in asking a woman to have intercourse and waiting for her to say yes, or a definite no. Skillful tacticians enhance their chances of making out by distributing their attentions among several women at a time, one version of playing the field, thus increasing their statistical chances for a favorable answer, depending on circumstances. This is the height of male aggressiveness that is tolerated. Genuine aggressiveness, rape, they have forbidden themselves by law. But don't women publicly adore, sometimes to the point of hysteria, male sex symbols such as film stars, singers? And doesn't that prove they are not immune to sex, after all? Male sex symbols, however, have one thing in common: they are all out of the reach of their fans. Here it is perfectly safe to let the libido have full reign, where there is a virtual guarantee of no consequences of any kind. Men within reach are immediately checked out on their eulifications as adoptive fathers, even if the trial period is more and more disguised as a passionate romance. The handsome, successful bachelor who has to beat them off with a club is hardly better off, in this regard, than the less eligible male not quite so swamped with unambiguous offers. Fortune's favorite does get more women to bed, and he gets them there faster than others. But if he doesn't come through at the earliest opportunity with a proper offer of adoption, he is likely to lose her just as quickly to the first rival who does. The great turnover in sex partners such men are said to have is mostly attributable to the fact that no woman stays with them long. The most attractive women, those having the most options, especially, are not given to losing much time. Once they are sure this man will never adopt, then they abandon his bed and slip under the covers with a potential provider, a man who cares not only for his own pleasure but really loves them. Even the marriage without a license is usually an adoption. The only difference is that the adoptee retains her own name, at least temporarily. This increasingly popular form of family planning only attests the rising power of woman. She has finally caught on that it is not even necessary to bother about the sanctions of law to nail a would-be provider to his intentions. On the contrary, most men seem to feel even more strongly bound to their partners when the latter forego legal guarantees. Surely, a man is bound to think, this woman is different from all others. She alone loves him for himself, not as a meal ticket. TLIC authentic protégés, which are the products of their union, eventually, will in any case bear his name, and the entire illegitimate family will of course be supported by him.